Hey, man, this is IFOF, information for open-minded folks, where you have to be open-minded to get the information. I'm your host, Coach J. Free, and today I have this young lady with me who is energetic, she's bubbly, she's funny, but she's about her business, man. So she's into the neuroscience. Of course, y'all know I'm into the brain, the mind, the brain, all of that kind of stuff, man. So it's a pleasure for me to have her on here, man. I follow this lady. I watch her videos, and just because of her energy and what she brings to the table, a lot of people you talk to, they're like, hey, they're real still about how they present their information. She is not one of those people. But without further ado, man, let me bring in Henrike, man. Hey, Henrike, how you feeling?
Hi, Malcolm. I'm so good. Thank you. Yeah,
Great.
no. I mean, personal development doesn't have to be dry and serious, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I get too serious, but it's good, man. Take a few seconds, man. Talk to the people, let them get to know you.
All right. Hi, guys. So my name is Henrike Schmidt. I'm the whole brain coach, and I help my clients understand why they do what they do, why they think the way they think, and how that consequently makes them feel the way they feel, by helping them understand a little bit more about their brain and their physiology, and how to tweak certain underlying processes so they can change their habits more quickly, more effortlessly, and move forward towards a life that they truly desire and deserve.
Okay, so throughout your process, you said think, feel, do.
Do, think,
Do, feel.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the order?
Well, because that seems to be the way that people, realize what's going on. It's like, first they go, why do I always do this? Why can't I change my behavior around this? And then they need to understand that it's actually their thinking that is between the action and the emotional response. So, this is where they can put a lever on and change their emotional reality around what they're doing. And that then it becomes this kind of loop, like you can turn it this way around and you can turn it that way around.
Right. Throughout my journey, I've come to realize that everything in life is a cycle. There's a cycle to everything that is in life, right? Even the processes throughout our body. And, you know what I'm saying? So what intrigued you, or what started your process to get into the whole neuroscience and the whole, that whole genre, that whole area? What got you there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's two levels to this. Like, I just wanted to say something, because what you just said really resonated with me, that there's this, these are kind of cycles, or everything is connected, and I mean, I quite intentionally chose the title, The Whole Brain Coach, because my approach is a holistic one, like you can never pull on one string and only move one thing, because it's, you're more like a puppet. So you pull on one string and something else happens, and so you have to look at the whole system, and you can never isolate just one area of your life and think, oh, once I fix this, everything's going to be hunky-dory. No, it's a whole thing. So the reason why I went into getting more into neuroscience was that I am scientifically minded. I like to have some proof of concept. I like to have some, I want to know how things work. It's like, you wouldn't take your car to a car mechanic who's never, who doesn't know how a combustion engine works, right?
Right.
So I wanted to know why some of the, the more woo-woo strategies that I came across were working for me and for other people. So, for example, I mean, gratitude practice, why does this make me feel better? What were the processes that were happening in my body, and, the brain being connected to that, or in a holistic way,
Right.
So, I just wanted to look under the hood and see what's going on there. So
Okay.
that's how I
Yeah.
got into
And I
NeroCoach.
think, I think a lot of people go through that because, I'm a Gen Xer. So, what I'm saying? We grew up in that era. Once again, we grew up in that era where, we did what we was told to do. And we, what I'm saying? And a lot of stuff that we grew up with didn't make sense to us. And well, we just did it anyway. We followed suit. And that's probably one of the biggest downfalls about Gen X, right? We never really evolved into the generation we should have evolved into. And that's why you got a lot of gaps. But, and for me, it was always, I hated the phrase, that's just how it is. No, there's a reason for this to happen. There's a reason for, you to feel that way. And that's what got me into it, was just, wanting to know the deeper root meaning. And when you deal with your clients, or, when you deal with your clients, how deep do you take them into their experience?
I mean, like, I don't, when I have a coaching client, I don't go, all right, sit down. I'm going to, here's the brain. I'm going to lecture you on how this all works. That's not how it works. But, for example, I may see that my client, is very set in his ways and is sort of, rigidly following, has the same routines every day of the week, and is just so bored with it all and feels unfulfilled and stuck. So then I know, from a brain perspective, why that is, why he, and then I apply strategies to, to generate some novelty in his life. And we don't, I don't say, okay, this is what you're going to do, but we're brainstorming together. Like, I will inform him. I will teach him a little bit about what's going on and how I think it could work. And then we figure out ways in which this strategy works for him or her exactly. So.
Right. So, yeah. So it's not, so for you, and I'm gonna save that question for later. I'm gonna hold that question for later. But you know what I'm saying. So when you take them through their process, right? What's the first step of their process when it comes to you and your coaching style? What's the first thing that they would have to go through with you as a coach?
I mean, it depends, because I seem to attract people with a lot of different problems. You know. So, sometimes I may have somebody who, I had one client who came to me because she was feeling unappreciated at work, at her 9 to 5. And she was thinking about setting out, on her own and starting her own consulting business. And she already had a couple of clients, but she just wasn't sure. She just couldn't think herself out of this dilemma. And so again, as a NeroCoach, knowing what may be off, first we did a bit of assessing of her reality. Was she drinking enough water? Thank you, Malcolm. Just so cute. So, was she hydrating enough? What was she eating? How was her sleep? She just had a baby. So obviously her sleep was all over the place. And for her, it was really a matter of tweaking. Just the hydration part unlocked her thinking powers again, so sometimes it can be such tiny tweaks to create huge results.
Right. So here we are, what I'm saying, life coach. What exactly is a life coach?
Well, I always refer to myself as a transformational life coach with the brain in mind. So, I mean, there's obviously life coach is such a generic term nowadays that you can have everything under the sun. Like there may be somebody who's doing money spells where they're burning dollar bills around a candle, and that's called life coaching, and then you have somebody else, somebody like me on the other end of the spectrum who wants the data, who wants the science strategies, so I'm usually attracting people who are going through some sort of drama in their lives, or who who are stuck in circumstances that they don't feel happy and fulfilled in anymore, and they just can't think themselves out of those situations on their own, or they feel like they've tried everything and they can't figure it out on their own. So then my flavor of life coaching is a lot of accountability. There's a lot of just holding space, being there, and allowing them a safe space to be vulnerable and to share like their deepest, darkest fears and thoughts, and and then I help them figure it out. Like, that's all it is. That they do all the work themselves.
Okay, so when we talk about Henrike, right? When we get into talking about you, who you are as a person, right? We talked about the bubbly energy. We talked about, the conviction to help others. What are some things that you personally had to overcome, or you had to go through in order to get to where you are today?
Well, I mean, I didn't emerge, I wasn't born as a life coach. I had a very roundabout way to come to this profession now. And like, for the first time in my adult life, this is actually something that I very, very consciously chose for myself. And it's the first time that I feel really at home and fulfilled in a profession. And it's very much that what you just mentioned, this desire to share and to help people get to a better place like I did. Because what sparked this whole transformation in myself was, I went through a really horrible period in 2016, when my marriage pretty much collapsed. Like, I refer to this as my personal Big Bang. Like, everything that I thought was my reality was suddenly in question. So that's when I realized that things hadn't been well for a very, very long time. I always say that, well, did you know that you can, if you put a frog in boiling water, it will jump out right away. But if you put the frog in tepid water and then put the water to boil, the frog will let itself be boiled alive. And I was that frog. Like, the temperature in my environment, in my life, had been going up and up and up and up over years. Okay. And I was getting more and more and more uncomfortable, but I didn't realize it until suddenly there was a jump in temperature, And so, as horrible as that period of my life was, I am so deeply grateful that it happened that way, because if it hadn't happened, I may just be stuck. I may still be stuck in the same situation now.
Right. We go through a lot of different things in life, and we don't realize that we're in it, or we don't realize that we're in the suck. You know what I'm talking about? We don't really realize it until, we hop out of it, until we get out of it, until it just gets so bad that you have to. And, through, there's reasons why we do that, because of conditioning, because of programming, because of all kind of little things, right? And people don't believe that there's a such thing as emotional programming, and, due to things that you've gone through, coming up. So, and to have to go through that kind of stuff, man, is hurting, but it's also educational. Absolutely. And it all depends on how you take it. And my divorce from, my last wife, that was educational to me, even though I didn't take it that way at first. But, at first I just thought, like, what, like, what the hell, like, what do you mean? But, as I look back at the process, okay, yeah. It was the best thing. So at least it was the best thing for me in certain aspects, you know what I mean? But once again, we get back into Henrike, right? We get deeper into Henrike, and we talk about, where you are right now, you seem to be in a happy space. You seem to be in a pretty good space. Everything can always be better, or it can be worse, but things can be better. But you seem to be happy where you are. And when you get to where you are right now, right, there's had to be influencers along the way. And, who were those influencers for you? And what did they bring to the table for you?
Yeah. So, it's a really good question. And I don't have I don't have a very straightforward answer to say, oh, it's that guy or this woman, who really influenced me to do what I do, or, and sometimes it's the little things, it's a quote you read somewhere, or, it's just, it may just be somebody looking at you and asking you how you are that kind of makes you go, what? Oh, yeah, right. So, I mean, I'm a coach. I have my own coach. I love my coach to bits. He's a great help in, calming my brain, my fear brain down, because that unfortunately never goes away. You always have this fear of the unfamiliar. It's always going to feel uncomfortable. And, there's probably too many books to mention.
Right.
I did start my, when I was really at my lowest point, I just enrolled in a very generic Mind Valley course. And it did help me a great deal, because I hadn't really been very present in my life. I had lived for 14 years. I'd lived in Turkey in a different culture. My husband was from there, and I hadn't really realized how inauthentic I had become, like how much of my personality had been compartmentalized. I had compartmentalized. I just, to fit in better, I had turned myself into somebody who I wasn't at my very core. And so, just starting somewhere, I'm sure probably it didn't really matter what course it was that I did, it was just that I did something to become more introspective and more curious about what was going on. So,
okay, you mentioned, one of my favorite words, which is authenticity. In your experience, how much is authenticity necessary for growth and development?
In my opinion, absolutely it is. It's like, but the problem isn't that people are choosing to be inauthentic. It's that they don't know who they really are. They don't know what they want, because they're so conditioned. Like they have all this, we have this list of achievements that we want to tick off, and we always go, okay, so once I have that, then I'll feel better. So now I have this job, but now I want the next job. So when I have the next better job, the promotion, I will feel better. When I have the partner of my dreams, I will be better. When I have the house, when I have the children, when I have this, when I have that, and they're ticking it all off. And every time they tick something off, they go, I'm still not there. Like,
Right.
I still haven't arrived at my destination. And sometimes it's just because they're going to the wrong place. They're so focused on this road to somebody else's dream destination. Whereas, they need to take a moment and figure out where they really want to go first before they set out on a journey.
Right. I mean, destination, where you're going. That's the biggest thing, because you got to know that you have to know the destination, and that destination, and what we call is backwards planning, right? We call it backwards planning, right? And you got to know where you want to be, and then work it, figure it out to where you are Now that creates your steps forward. And that's how I teach it. Now, you might do something different. But, you know what I'm saying? So when a person is when they're not true to themselves, when they're not true to who they are, or they don't know who they are, right? What is a process? If somebody's watching right now and they need to know, okay, how do I get started in finding myself? What would your suggestions be?
I'm a huge fan of writing things down by hand. Don't put it in a device. There is scientific evidence that journaling by hand, that kind of there is a motor connection. Your brain's motor cortices are stimulated and so forth. Blah 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 blah. Never mind. When you do write stuff down, do it by hand. And so write down what you think you want. And then keep asking yourself, why? Why do I want this? Why is that important to me? And then you'll find an answer. And then you can ask again. And why is that important to me? And you just keep going down, 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 deeper, 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 deeper. And maybe you'll realize that your answers are very shallow, are very generic. Then you may want to rethink that as your ultimate goal. But if, on the other hand, it becomes really emotional, like you'll get to a place where it will stimulate an emotional response, then you're onto something. So that's what I would suggest you do. Okay, so
would you say that the why is more important than the how, or the how Absolutely. Is more important? Oh, okay.
No. Start with why. Absolutely. Simon Sinek was not wrong when he said that. Okay. No. If you don't know the why,
the how does good.
No,
right, absolutely. Right. I mean, I've gone through different people or whatever, and everybody wants to know the why, and they want to know the how, right? They want to know the how. How do I do this? How do I do that? Because what I'm saying, I have I have a couple other businesses, and it's always how do I do this? How do I make the sale? How do I do this? How do I recruit? But I always got to take them back to, why do you want to do this in the first place? Right? Give me a reason why. Tell me, why is this important to you? And if your why, like they say, if the why isn't big enough, then the how doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Your why has to be big enough to make you get up and do the how. And
so there is one question you can ask that starts with how in that circumstance, and it is, how do you want to feel in that situation? Right. So if you figure out, like, okay, so if you're struggling in a specific situation, ask yourself, okay, so how am I feeling right now? I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling not good enough. I'm feeling like who am I to believe that I can do this? So how would you feel instead? Like, what is your ultimate desired emotional state? So you want to feel, in flow, effortless, you jump out of bed in the morning and you're so motivated, and you really create this emotional reality around the ideal state, and then really feel into that, and then ask yourself, and now that I'm in this emotional state, how would I do it? Like, how would I show up? So that's the only two questions in that order where I allow how before you figure out your why. So
so as we take people as coaches, right? A lot of coaches I've run into, it's not about the clients. It's about the money, right? And I kind of disassociate with those people. But I mean, as a coach, do you feel that you have to have some type of, personal oomph, or does it just business, right? And, do you take your clients personal, or is it just business? You know what I'm saying? Like, you understand? Do you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it's very much it's a symbiosis of some sort. It's like this is where like one big difference to therapy comes in. In therapy, you usually have like this real big, gap between the therapist and the patient, and you need to keep your distance. But I'm my client's biggest cheerleader. I love my clients. I want them to succeed. I'm their accountability partner, and I'm also their biggest critic at some, in some places. So, if this were all just about the money, then, all right, everybody come in. I don't care. Like if I don't resonate with somebody, it doesn't matter. Like if I can't, no, I can only work with people who I have a personal connection with. That's unfortunately, that's just how it works.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know if other coaches can do it differently.
Okay, so the Optimind course.
Yeah.
What started that process? Well, how did you get connected with Optimind? How did that process start for you?
Well, so like I said, so I started somewhere, and I came across a lot of, like it was kind of this breadcrumb path that I took for my own personal development.
Right.
Like a friend suggested a book on transurfing, of all things, and so I started with this, and then I thought, well, a lot of this stuff so the guy is a quantum physicist, the author of the book, I forget his name, but then, a lot of the stuff was really out there, like really woo-woo. And I was like, no, okay, I want, I need more scientifically, based strategies. And
Right.
I got into, so because I was interested in hypnosis, and that kind of then led into NLP, like it does, and so, but it like that, none of those modalities really, gelled with me, because I think I may have mentioned that to you earlier at some point, that when I started training a bit more in hypnosis and people were approaching me to be hypnotized, they were always after a magic pill. Like, oh, can you just hypnotize me and then I'll stop smoking? Can you hypnotize me and then I'll lose 20 kilos? And that's not how it works. And that's not how it should work either. Like, you need to do the work. You need to really get to know yourself, and, probably go to some dark places and not stay on the surface and just have somebody go, ooh, and the problem is solved. So, where was I going with this? Oh, yes, the Optimind course. Yeah. So, and then I found a place, that was, I think it was called the NeroSculpting Institute or something like this. And it was more about meditation. But I posted a question in a coaching group on Facebook. Does anybody have some more information about neurosculpting? And then somebody suggested Shante Javan Taylor to speak to. So I didn't find any content. I didn't see any websites before I had a personal conversation with Shante. And it was like, I said to her, like, we're, twins from different parents, it, like, there were so many overlaps of what she was telling me, what I was feeling, what I was telling her, the experiences that she had had. And so I trusted her explicitly. Like, from the moment that I met her, I knew that she was the right coach for me at that point, to give me the basic knowledge of our brain, of neuroscience, so I could apply that to my coaching practice.
Right. My route, my journey was a little different, because I retired from the military and I have no idea on what I was going to be when I grew up. Like, I didn't have a clue. And like people always say they're this, and then they'll bring up neurocoaching. I'm a neurocoach first. And, when we talk like to my clients and all that kind of stuff, I don't get too deep with the neuroscience, but I give them something to spark their curiosity about the brain. So they'll want to know more about how the brain is functioning and what it's doing and why is this, because I know for me, I needed to know the why, right? You know what I'm saying? When you say, okay, the mind and brain are not the same. Okay, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? All my life, I've thought that that's what it was. But then when you come back and say the mind and brain are not the same, okay, explain that to me. And it's kind of hard to explain in a way, right? Because if you ask a scientist what the mind is, they're going to give you their answer in accordance to cognition and all this. If you ask a psychologist what the mind is, they're going to give you something totally different. So, you know what I'm saying? So, through your journey, how do you explain, do you explain what the mind is compared to the brain?
Well, it doesn't, like, it's not a step in a lecture, it's not like lesson number 2 of the course or something. Like, when in one-on-one coaching, it just kind of comes up if and when it's necessary. Right. So, I mean, like what I just, what was just coming up as you were talking there was that, I mean, neuroscience is hot right now. I mean, there's so much research happening in neuroscience, and, classical models of what emotions are, how emotions are formed, they're kind of toppling and being replaced. And like, you really have to stay on the ball. And it's not, it doesn't mean that everything that we've, if what you've learned like 6 months ago is wrong. It just means that the model has slightly changed. So the strategies that have worked before are still working, but the why may have changed a little bit, So, but I find it fascinating, to see. And I read something really good about, because, I may not be a very religious person, but I certainly, identify as spiritual. And, I struggle with this, like, okay, so if it's just this machine that we carry around, and you poke there and then it does this, and you poke there and it does that. But I read this really nice analogy of a neuroscientist about how much we know about the brain right now. And he said it's almost like as if you compare the brain to a radio transmitter that's been dropped in a jungle. And, an Aborigine finds this radio transmitter, and he has no concept of what a radio is, but he's curious, and he's turning this dial, and he notices that, oh, okay, if I turn it that way, then your volume goes up. And if I turn it that way, then the volume goes down, and there's voices in there. And if I turn the other dial, then the voices will change. If I cut this wire, then the voices will stop, But he still has no concept of what radio waves are. That there may be somebody sitting in a studio recording his voice or her voice and transmitting it to this radio. Right. So that's where we are right now. We may know, how certain how certain areas of the brain are involved in specific thinking or emotional responses or behavior, vision, motor actions, whatever. But, our understanding of consciousness is like, no idea.
Like, yeah. So. That's why, like I say, it's hard to pinpoint what the mind is, because, it's a lot. And we haven't found out enough about ourselves to really know, like, technology and science and, as far as the biology, right? Because I know not long ago, they just thought glia cells were connecting cells. Now they're finding out that glia cells are really something to really look at, right? And not to get too geeky in the conversation, but, so medicine changes, right? The way we process information changes. The way we teach information changes based on these new findings and new things that's coming up. And I think that, the more people that engage with neuroscience and different types of, biology and get into the endocrine system, learn more about the endocrine system, I think that we'd be more, I think the world would just be a better place, honestly. You know what I'm talking about? Because, there's just a lot of information out there.
Yeah.
So, as I started my journey a few years ago, I went through some things, right? I went through some things. And of course, life is energy, and energy does not travel in a straight line, right? It travels in waves. And life itself is energy. So life is going to have waves of ups and downs, ups and downs. Through your journey, right, what were like the high points for you? And what are some of your low points of your journey? And how did you get from the low points to the high points?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have to say that, knock on wood, luckily, it's been fairly, like, from my lowest point, it's been, it's been a steady climb. I may have had some plateaus and you kind of have these dips, but it wasn't like I didn't have any real crashes anymore. Right. So as I mentioned before, like in 2016, like, I had, my relationship, my marriage kind of collapsed in on itself. And I then made some professional changes, and I trained to become an English teacher. And that was a time where I really had to, real estate agent, English teacher, whatever. But that was that experience at that school made me really aware of stress and burnout and authenticity and all of these things, because all of that was, I was super stressed. I was super inauthentic, like the company culture was toxic as hell. And, and all of these things forced me to look more closely at those topics. So after the first year where I was ready to break, like the first year at that school was that was tough, I tell you, and the only reason why I didn't, quit the job was because I would have felt like I had failed at this, and I'm not a quitter, So I took the summer break, and in Turkey, that's 3 months, the summer holidays. I said, okay, I have to kind of stress-proof myself. I have to get rid of all the stress that's accumulated over this school year, and I have to build this energy bubble around me that will only let in positive energy, and it'll keep out all the other shit. And I started really speaking my mind as well. And, when I went back to school, I would not take any more shit from anyone. There was like the stories I could tell you are so ridiculous that just one example was that we all came to school. So there's 90 teachers at the school. We all came to school, and they told us 20 minutes before the end of the school day that we weren't allowed to go home, that we had to get on a bus to the next town where the main school was, because there was going to be an announcement made at that school. And we all said, we have children. We don't have childcare arranged for these children. Doesn't matter. No excuses. Everybody gets on this bus. So they just took us to the next town, which is that's a 45, 50-minute drive. Chucked us out. We went into the auditorium, and they told us, we're changing our name. And they brought in this big cake and fireworks, and they cut the cake. And we're all sitting there, and we're saying, you've got to be shitting us, right? You just took us away from our children in the evening just to tell us that we're changing our name. That could have been an email. Thank you very much, right? So, and I was just I was really vocal about how inappropriate those things were. And it liberated me, this is where this authenticity came in again, and my ex-husband to this day, like if he heard me talking about this, he'd be like, you can't say this, like you mustn't say these things. So yeah, where were we? What was the question?
No, it's all good, man. Okay, so our time is running short, man. I mean, like, I could sit here and talk to you all day, you know that. But you know what I'm saying, if there was 3 things that you wanted people to take from this podcast, or what would that be?
Well, I mean, first of all, like I led with this. Like, personal development doesn't have to be serious, and it doesn't have to be and I don't know if you can see this. Like, it doesn't all have to be sitting in lotus position and meditating. Which I love, which I do. But it can also be kind of funky and weird and funny, and I'm having lots of laughs about all sorts of shit that I get up to, and it's also about enjoying it when you kind of mess up. Like, I mess up all the time, and just like my one of my core values is just a sense of humor. Like, just keep a sense of humor. It's gonna make everything so much better, Yeah. And so if anyone wants to follow anything that I'm doing, I'm on Instagram at the Whole Brain Coach, and Facebook, same there, the Whole Brain Coach, and I'm also on LinkedIn. And thank you very much. So this is my this.
Yeah, right.
that's my website address, thewholebraincoach.com. And if you put on / and then followed by 3 uppercase B's, it will take you to my latest online course, the Badass Boundary Bundle, which I created due to popular demand and pandemic sparked necessity, because, man, homeschooling and home office are 2 things that do not go well together. So I have lots of clients who are struggling and who are afraid to set boundaries with the people in their lives because they think that, they won't like me anymore, they won't love me anymore, they won't respect me anymore if I don't keep doing what I'm doing. And that's just not the case. So if you are curious, just head on over to thewholebraincoach.com /BBB and see what it's all about. So.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you showing up for the show, man. You put out some information of value, especially, it doesn't have to be, so, robotic. It doesn't have to be so sticky or whatever. And that's one of the reasons why I invited you to the show, because, your energy. And some people think that once we start coaching and we start dealing with, clients and all that stuff, we got to be distant from them, and and that's not necessarily the case. And so just to feel your energy, just to see your energy, just to see just to listen to you talk is just funny to me. But you can tell that you're passionate.
Funny in a good way. Funny.
Yeah.
Like, in a totally respectful, she knows what she's talking about, not as in,
right. But you can also tell that you're passionate about what you do. And I love that energy, total energy vibe that you give. And I think that people should connect with you, at least, get to know you a little better, right? Get to know you a little more about you, and watch your videos, man. Like, y'all gotta watch this lady's videos. They're jam-packed with information, but the way she does it is just, it's like me stepping outside talking to my neighbor, and we're just having that conversation, man. And I love it.
Like, most of the time I'm doing those videos for myself. Like, most of the time I'm talking about topics that I'm struggling with. Like, because, okay, so we're coaches, it's so easy to see certain things in others and help them overcome those, but we still struggle with the same topics,
I think people don't realize that a lot of times I do a video or something like that. It's about something that's going on in my life. And I'm talking to myself. So when I watch the video, it's like, okay, right. Because it's easy for me to, I hate the word regurgitate, but it's easy for me to put it out when I know I'm talking to somebody else. But when it comes to me talking to me, it's like, So it's like the videos help me out with that. I don't know, it's some kind of weird thing going on with that.
Yeah, I think I have the same thing. There's this sort of disconnecting, because like I record and I'm talking to somebody else, and then I watch it back, and then I'm talking to myself as a third person, and I go, oh, shit, that's exactly what's going on. So like, you know, like I'm coaching myself. So
because a lot of times I go back and watch my old videos, and you know what I'm saying, I'll gather, you know what I'm saying, especially like, well, you know what I'm saying, like I know I've gone through this before, so why am I so lost in it now? You know what I'm saying? So I'll go back and I'll watch an old video and be like, oh, okay, you know what, I missed that step, or or I didn't, you know what I'm saying, I forgot about this part. And sometimes it'd be like the smallest little thing, like just being grateful about, because I remember a certain point in my life, I was, you know, at that point I was being grateful, and every morning it was being grateful, in the afternoon it was being grateful, before I went, you know what I'm saying, and then it got to a point where I wasn't, and then it's like once I started,
like I've got this, you know, I don't have to pay so much attention to it anymore.
Right. But then you start realizing, like, you know what, everything started changing when I stopped doing the gratitudes. So anyway, you know, so once again, we just started
we can, like we said,
but anyway,
going for another hour.
You know what I'm saying? Like I love optimizers because I can vibe off of them, I can feed off of them, and you know, I can really go into talking about the brain and the hippocampus and the hypothalamus and all that. And they're not looking at me like, you know what I mean?
No, but this is exactly it. So, you know, as I said, so with neuroscience evolving so quickly, like we need to stay on the ball and borrow a brain. You know, you don't have to do it on your own. So anytime, my friend, anytime.
All right, so you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna end the show. But anyway,
all right, I'm gonna be quiet now.
I know, you know what I'm saying, when I edit this or whatever the case is, it's just us talking. When I edit this or whatever the case is, it's gonna be like, I don't want to take that part out. Okay, I don't want to take that part out.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to take that part out, but I don't, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, anyway. Anywho, all right. But check this out, man. Coach Free. This is IFOF. Once again, this is IFOF, Information for Open-Minded Folks, where you have to be open-minded to get the information. The young lady that I just spoke with, man, make sure you reach out to her. Make sure you connect with her, and you know, just feel her energy, feel her vibe, right? Connect with her, reach out to her, right? I'm quite sure she's not going to pick your pockets or you know, charge you a bunch of money just for a consult. You might get your first consult for free. Let's say, hey, I watched the video with Coach Free, and can I get a consult for free? She might do that. But anyway, check it out, man. What you focus on in life becomes your reality. If you focus on your problems, then your problems will remain your reality. But if you focus on the solution to the problems, then the solutions will become your reality. Once again, Coach Free, I love each and every last one of y'all, and I appreciate you for watching. Peace.
Big round of applause.
IFOF.